exorcist's job is to find out what allowed the demon to possess a person in the first place. The demons that possess us, the things that harass us, are things that we choose to allow into us. They're the things that we refuse to do the work of getting rid of, to exercise out of us, and to become better and to become pure. And that's important, because all of those things that you would talk about, like seances or Ouija boards or witchcraft, whatever, they're all not the thing. They're not the it to which we're referring. Those are all there because they're trying to cover up for something else that's wounded you. Maybe you grew up feeling powerless, and then you hear about this thing called witchcraft. It's like, ooh, I can take an unnatural control over the environment? Yeah, why would you engage in that? Because you don't feel like you have actual power over your own life. When you were abused when you were younger, you never got a chance to really deal with it because you were too young, and you internalized it so much that then as you grow older, you turn to drugs and alcohol, like a pain reliever for the wounds that you suffered. So how is it that demons enter? I just told you. Through the wounds when you were younger. You'll only remember one thing I teach you, I hope it's this, that your demons are going to inhabit your wounds. Things that wounded you when you were younger, those are the things that allow those behaviors to enter your life, are the things that you're using to cover up those wounds. Is it actually helpful to you? Or is it actually condemning you to a lifetime of mental hell? And if you recognize it's condemning you to a lifetime of mental hell, now the question is, can you get it out of your life? Because what does a demon do if it possesses you? It animates you, it makes you behave in ways that you wouldn't normally act. Aren't all of those things exactly the same thing? Drugs and alcohol and all the things that we use to cover up abuse. They cause us to behave in ways that we never ever would. Again, it doesn't matter if you believe in these things literally or not, at least understand them metaphorically. That the demons in your life are the things that they're in you, and you might think like, I don't know why I feel this way, because there's a wound that it entered through. The question is, what are you doing to try to deal with it? What's the thing that you're trying to use to make it better that's actually making it worse? In fact, what's the armor you're putting on to go fight that dragon that's actually making things worse? And especially if you grow up in an environment that's always talking about life as being a matter of luck. You know, in other words, like why is that person successful and I'm not? Oh, because they're just lucky. And if it's a matter of luck, then it's easy to say that they didn't actually earn it. And if they didn't actually earn it, then that means that they must have gotten by somehow without, in a way that I couldn't have, which then of course makes me a victim, which if I'm a victim, I can kind of behave however I want to behave. And if that's the case, then, there's really no limit to what you can do. We almost excuse everything. And there's something that's how do you say it? There's like an unearned social status that people get when they think this way. In other words, like, because I'm a victim, then that means I'm somehow to be honored, rather than honoring overcoming like a victim status. And then of course that's the downside to that is kind of like, so let's say you do eventually overcome that lack of luck, quote unquote. So then what do you say? Wow, I suddenly became lucky, and I started doing well at work, and then I got a promotion, and I got a raise, and I used that money to invest, and now you don't feel like you actually earned anything. Because if it was luck, in other words, if that person got successful just because of luck, and you think that that's really the only way people become successful, then if I become successful, then that too is just a matter of luck, and there's no real accomplishment that goes on there. The nefarious part of that is that stuff starts to happen unconsciously. In other words, people don't sit there and reason it out that way, but it is the unconscious understanding that people will have, and they won't even know why they're not satisfied with some kind of achievement or success. And so I asked that question about where that comes from, because that's really important. Like, in other words, if you're a person who thinks that all of that so much of success really does come down to luck, and by the way, a lot of success does come down to luck, but not necessarily in the ways that we think about it, then it's a good question to ask yourself, then where did that come from? because it does impact the way that you behave. If you think, in other words, if that life is just about luck, it doesn't make any sense to work hard and try. Why would you bother if it's just about luck and you're unlucky? And a surprise thing's going to happen if you don't try. You won't succeed. And it'll just kind of reiterate itself. It'll keep, kind of proving itself, as it were. Others. This one's heavy, man. The last two periods we were talking about. Does anybody know anybody from fourth period? Yeah, if you ask people from fourth period, there's another teacher in here during fourth period. And she was absent today, so there was a sub. So there was like this 150-year-old woman back there who was subbing for her, and she hit some really heavy questions that were beyond kind of the level of what we're doing here, but entertained him anyway. I'm gonna post them because she was really like, afterwards she was just like beaming, and she's like, I really appreciated this. I felt like I was in a college class again. And I'm thinking, wow, that's an incredible memory then. That was a long time. I know, I can't even be gracious with a compliment. But there's a lot of really heavy stuff happening here. Like, how many of you have heard of Poe before? Even if you don't know much about him, right? And even if you don't know much about him, if you look at this dude, what are some things about him that stand out when you just look at him? Yeah.
His eye bags?
Yeah, last period they mentioned that too. He has like triple eye bags. And keep in mind, look at the year that he died, 1849. Anything seems strange to you about this picture given that he died in 1849? Yeah.
He doesn't look 40?
He doesn't look 40. How old does he look?
80?
Yeah. Yeah. And there's something else, by the way. Again, look at the year, 1849, he dies.
You only live 40 years?
He only lived 40 years. But there's something else about the picture that may not even stand out to you. Mustache? What's that? Schizophrenia? No, he didn't. He was fine, okay? He had rabies, okay? Yeah, it's in color. This is a colorized picture, which means that they colorize it to make him look better. And yet, when you're making him look better, this is as good as they could come up with, because he did die at 40 years old. He did suffer from some significant problems mentally. The fact that he dies at 40 years old will tell you something about the way in which he lived. Does anybody know how he died? Good. Because nobody really knows how he died. We think we do. We think we have an idea. He was found in the gutter. Yeah. And he was hallucinating. And he was in and out of consciousness. And they took him to the hospital. And he died a few days later. It's been speculated that he died of rabies, which is just ridiculous. It's been speculated that he died of an embolism. There's all kinds of theories about why he died, but we just don't exactly know. But we do speculate probably that it was brought on by really heavy alcoholism. This guy drank. I think he reported having his first drink at like 8 years old.
What?
Yeah, so 32, and this guy didn't just like drink to enjoy it. This guy would drink to get drunk specifically. This guy was such last period I said he wasn't even an alcoholic. Alcoholics go to meetings. This guy was a drunk. This guy was invited to the White House because he was so famous as an author. He met the president, I believe it was Rutherford B. Hayes, if I'm not mistaken, and he tries to sell the guy a magazine subscription because he's so drunk. He doesn't even seem to know he's meeting with the president because he read a magazine at the time. So he's trying to sell him subscriptions, and Hayes just kind of walks away from him. But it begs that question, why would a person start drinking at 8 years old? What is it? And what's the purpose of getting drunk? Yeah.
To escape reality?
To escape reality. So it's a heck of a question. At 8 years old, at 8, what was this guy? And by the way, even if it wasn't until his 20s or so, it still begs the question, what kind of a reality was he trying to escape such that he drank so much? And by the way, that's probably what caused his death. It probably had to do with alcoholism. So he talks here. The shadows of my soul are not cast by the external world. The things that are darkening his soul, it's not coming from out there, but it's something that's coming from inside. And he references the very end there, demons. Demons. When we say that a person has demons, what do we mean by that? Say a person's wrestling with their demons, yeah.
That there's an inner
Yeah.
turmoil inside of them that they can't fight?
Yeah. Both of those words would have worked. Torment and turmoil both would have worked there. Yeah, there's an inner torment, see, now it's me, an inner turmoil that he's fighting. And you ask the question, okay, so where did that come from? So, quite literally, aside from demons as a metaphor, what are demons? Not the metaphorical demons, but if we're thinking like a literal demon, what is a demon? Like if you say that someone got possessed by a demon, what is that?
A type of monster?
A type of a monster. It's a specific kind of a monster. Where does that monster come from?
Hell.
From hell. And how did the monster end up there? Just woke up one day? Like so many of us a few days ago? Yeah. I mean, so many of us know. I wonder why we're so afraid of talking about this stuff. How does that monster end up in hell? What's it doing down there? Yeah.
Maybe they were like sinning and like doing bad stuff.
Yeah, what?
They were doing bad stuff.
Yeah, and it did a very specific bad thing, by the way, to end up in hell. A demon specifically. It's important to the story. Again, it isn't important whether you believe it literally or not. At least understand it as a symbol, as a representation for something. Demons are fallen angels. They rebelled and they were cast into hell. Hell is made for angels, not for people. And the idea is that people choose to go there. The demons chose to rebel, but the demons used to not, well, they still are, I guess, but they used to be called something else, which was angels. They're the angels that rebelled and they were cast down. And that's important to the story. Again, it doesn't matter if you believe in angels and gods and so forth. The important thing is even to understand the symbolism that's there. When you say, like for example, when you talk about little kids and they say, oh, he's such an angel, so was Satan. But he became a demon. And that tells you that there's a capacity in all of us to be one of these things, to be an angel or to be a demon, to be a person or to be a monster, to be evil, to be good, to be dark or to be light. And it's what we choose to become that determines what we become. And so in the case when we're talking about demons are things that we typically think of as roaming the earth and looking for people. And what do demons do to people? What are they famous for in the movies? Yeah, possession. You know, we're fascinated by exorcism movies. I was talking the last couple of periods. If any of you guys anybody interested in paranormal stuff? Yeah, there's a podcast that you should listen to. It's called The Exorcist Files. It's done by a guy named Father Carlos Martins. He's a Catholic priest who's an exorcist. In other words, his job is to go out and do exorcisms. And there's 2 seasons of it out now. I've only listened to the first season, but in it he talks about his stories of exorcisms. And it's interesting when you listen to it and go, this guy's not trying to entertain us. This guy is telling us, according to him, what actually happened, what was in the rooms, the things that he's encountered, the entities that he believes he's engaged. And it's dramatized to the point, so they have like voice actors playing their roles and so forth, but he's there and he's narrating, he's saying, here's what happened, here's what happened. So according to him, everything that's in those things is a real thing that happened. And one of the things that he says is key to an exorcist is to find out, not just to get rid of a demon. Like we see like these movies about exorcisms and they're always like trying to cast out the demons. He says that's not what an exorcist's job is. An exorcist's job is to find out what allowed the demon to possess a person in the first place. In other words, it isn't just to go, oh my God, you have a demon, let's get it out of you, because a person has to be willing to get a demon out of them. And again, whether you believe in demons as being literal, at least understand them to be metaphorical. That's true about all of us. The demons that possess us, the things that harass us, are things that we choose to allow into us. They're the things that we refuse to do the work of getting rid of, to exercise out of us, and to become better and to become pure. And so he says that he questions the demons and asks them, what gives you the right to be here? And ultimately, he says they can track it down to some kind of a behavior. Ouija boards, seances, people engaging in witchcraft, whatever it is, by Catholic doctrine, The point is that it opens up these doorways. It opens up these pathways to allow possession to happen. And that's important because all of those things that you would talk about, like seances or Ouija boards or witchcraft, whatever, they're all not the thing. They're not the it to which we're referring. Those are all there because they're trying to cover up for something else that's wounded you. In other words, if you're somebody who feels like you don't have much power in your life, maybe you grew up feeling powerless, and then you hear about this thing called witchcraft, it's like, ooh, I can take an unnatural control over the environment? Yeah, why would you engage in that? Because you don't feel like you have actual power over your own life. Do you actually gain power over the environment? Who knows? But the point is that you want to, and you have that feeling for it, and because of that, you open up to it. There's a sense that where when you were abused when you were younger, you never got a chance to really deal with it because you were too young, and you internalized it so much that then as you grow older, you turn to drugs and alcohol. Drugs and alcohol. And that's a way of trying to be like a pain reliever for the wounds that you suffered. So how is it that demons enter? I just told you. Through the wounds when you were younger. The things that are harassing you today, that you engage in behaviors to try to cover up and make up for, and to try to forget about those things that have hurt you in the past and are still hurting you, maybe even at an unconscious level. I told last period, and I'll say it to this period again, if you only remember one thing I teach you, I hope it's this, that your demons are going to inhabit your wounds. The things in your life, and now we can go again broader to the more representational, the more metaphorical. That the things that are the things that wounded you when you were younger, those are the things that allow those behaviors to enter your life. Why do a person who's self-fulfilled, happy, projects themselves into the future, sees a brightness to their lives, is fulfilled with family and friends, doesn't all of a sudden sit there and go, you know what would make all this better? Cocaine. That's a person who sees cocaine instead as a thing that would damage all of those positive things that you have going on in your life. You wouldn't want to risk all of those positive things for this one other thing. Instead, it's like, I'm missing these other things, or it seems like I have these things, but I don't feel like it, so let me add this thing to it to try to make it better. And it's that thing that you're going to intuitively know is going to be bad for you, that you willingly allow in, the same way that you willingly allow a demon. So metaphorically, you allow those things that are actually not going to help you at all, because ultimately, if demons were real, if hell was real, if the devil was real, it just wouldn't make any sense at all to sell your soul for something like that. What do you get out of it? Fame? So you get to be famous until you're 27, and then you die and you spend eternity in a hell. Is it really helpful? No, but that's exactly the metaphor. That's exactly the representation. Are the things that you're using to cover up those wounds, is it actually helpful to you? Or is it actually condemning you to a lifetime of mental hell? And if you recognize it's condemning you to a lifetime of mental hell, now the question is, can you get it out of your life? Well, there's the metaphor again. You can't. You need help to do that. Somebody who can come along and find out for you, what is it that allowed this thing to enter your life in the first place? Because what does a demon do if it possesses you? It animates you, it makes you behave in ways that you wouldn't normally act. Aren't all of those things exactly the same thing? Drugs and alcohol and all the things that we use to cover up abuse. They cause us to behave in ways that we never ever would, because we're possessed by those things. And so again, it doesn't matter if you believe in these things literally or not, at least understand them metaphorically. That the demons in your life are the things that they're in you, and you might think like, I don't know why I feel this way, because there's a wound that it entered through. The question is, what are you doing to try to deal with it? What's the thing that you're trying to use to make it better that's actually making it worse? In fact, what's the armor you're putting on to go fight that dragon that's actually making things worse? Because the first step to dealing with those shadows and the silhouettes inside of you is, first things first, stop digging. Stop making things worse. Stop doing the things that you know. Not the things that I come along and tell you are wrong. Not the things that anybody else comes along and tells you you're wrong. The things that you inside yourself know, this is making it worse. I have a good friend of mine who tells me, she messages me every few weeks, and she tells me the way that she's living. And she knows it's completely destructive, and it comes from a bad breakup. And so I've asked her before, what's the wound that the demons come through? And she's able to trace it back, and she says it's because of an abandonment when she was a kid. And then she was in a relationship, and it got, I don't want to say too much. Well, why not? You don't know who she is. She had an abortion, and it was because she didn't want to. She was just angry at her boyfriend. She acted out in this way. And then they were together, then he cheated on her, and then she stayed with him because she felt a bit guilty about that. So then she went through some really bad psychological abuse, actually. And then she broke up with him, and now she forwards me voice messages that he still sends her. They broke up like a year ago. He still sends her stuff like every week, just horrible messages. And I ask her, why do you put up with it? And she says, because I kind of deserve it. And then she goes out and she parties every weekend. Got her first, and I say first, not only, but got her first DUI a few weeks ago. And then she reaches out to me, and she's just like, I'm living in that hell you talked about. And I said, so what's the wound that the demon came through? And she knows it. And I asked her, so what are you doing to fix it? And she said, nothing. I'm going to keep living the way that I'm living. Because what do demons ultimately want? To destroy you. Willingly, we accept it. We walk forward through it. And then we say things like, that's just the way I am. But it's not. It's the way that we allow ourselves to be. At least in her case, she's conscious, which maybe is worse, by the way. Because it's worse. I'm going to be very sad if I have to go to her funeral, man. And I worry about that. I tell her that. And she just says, thank you, Scanlon. And I hear from her again like a month and a half later, 2 months later, so. But I guess she's one cautionary tale. Maybe what we're doing in our lives isn't that bad yet, but I can see how most of us can end up there in some way. So I guess I would ask that question just to consider. If it's you, if it's someone you know, what's the wound that's allowed the demon to come in and causing you to act in ways that ultimately seeks your destruction? Deal with that thing, man. Get it exercised. Figure out where it came in. And treat that wound properly. Otherwise, it will keep getting infected. And it will keep allowing demons in. And then at the end of all of it, we're going to say, that's just fate. It's just the way that I am. It's really just the way you allow yourself to be. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
Yeah, we can smile anyway, right?